Welcome to the Clearly Beneficial podcast, the show where we rip off the Band-Aid and explore the future of healthcare, benefits, and the people driving innovation in the industry. This episode is brought to you by Health Next, the company leading the way in helping employers build enduring cultures of health and well-being, reducing medical cost trends, and increasing organizational performance. To learn more how they can help you, visit healthnext.com.
Welcome to the Clearly Beneficial podcast. This is Vinny Catalano, and thanks for joining. Today, I'm just so excited. You know what I love about doing this is that you get to stay connected and reconnect with former colleagues and friends in the industry, and today's guest is no exception. Really excited to have Ferrin Williams with me. She and I got to know each other when we both worked at a large insurance brokerage, and she ran pharmacy consulting for this particular organization out here in the West. And she and I have stayed connected over the last few years, and she's now working for a great company and staying in the pharmacy space. And talking about pharmacy is something which, I think a lot of you feel like it's this mystical, curiously, confusing thing. And I want to, brought Ferrin on today to talk about that. So Ferrin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, Vinny. I'm excited to be here.
So maybe give the audience just a brief, background. How did you end up in pharmacy benefits consulting and doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I didn't dream or even think about doing pharmacy benefits consulting when I was in pharmacy school. I'm a pharmacist by education, so I got my bachelor's, an MBA, and a PharmD. It's a way of calling a doctorate of pharmacy. It's called the PharmD. I got that from the University of Oklahoma, so Boomer Sooner. And I spent the first 10 years of my career on the retail pharmacy operations side of the house. And then from there, I went to a startup, PBM, so a small pharmacy benefit manager, if you've heard of that. And then from there, I went into consulting, and that's where I really got to work hand in hand with employers. And I've been on this benefits side of the house for the last few years of my career. And it's been really great. I got to meet you and great people like you. So.
Well, no, thank you. And you also got to meet Mark Cuban, right? You were on you were on a podcast with Mark Cuban sometime in the last year, right?
Yeah, so I work at Scripta Insights now, and we have a partnership with Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs. So they're a pharmacy. Anybody can get on and look up your prescription and see the price. And we help members or patients navigate and look at the Mark Cuban price with Cost Plus Drugs through our app. So we have a great partnership, and so through that, I got to do a podcast with him, and it's been wonderful working with him and his team.
No, that's awesome. I mean, not that this is a commercial for Mark Cuban, but at the same time, I'm a huge fan. I mean, I take a couple of generic drugs, and I saw that the cost to buy my medications through Cost Plus Drugs was 1/3 of what it would have cost me through my own health plan. And so it just makes it so simple, and it all comes in the mail. And I'm a huge fan of Cost Plus Drugs. So you in your preamble there, you said the most interesting initials and in the universe, PBM, and I don't mean peanut butter and mayonnaise. Most humans in America have no idea what a PBM is, yet a PBM touches their lives every day if they're filling any prescriptions. So maybe, Ferrin, let's start by you giving me that 50,000 foot description of what is a PBM.
Yeah, so basically a pharmacy benefit manager is there to help process and adjudicate prescription drug claims. So essentially, if you need a prescription drug with which most members with an employer plan, it's about 40% at some time within a year are going to need a prescription drug. And so when you go to your pharmacy to get that prescription drug, it could cost $500 cash. So you'll want to use your insurance. And whenever you process your insurance card, the company that is doing that is called a pharmacy benefit manager. And your employer that you have your insurance with is working with a PBM vendor to do that. Your employer may be a steel manufacturer. They're really good at steel. So their expertise may not be in pharmacy benefits and adjudicating claims. So they hire a partner to do that for them.
Got you. And so it's safe to say that most employers have a pharmacy benefit manager. So if they're self-insured, they may have a standalone pharmacy benefit manager partner. If they're fully insured, that pharmacy benefit manager is going to be embedded in that fully insured health plan. Is that all correct?
It's all correct. Yeah. So everybody has one.
Okay. Well, everybody has one. And so, they work in tandem usually with, especially on the self-insured side, they work in tandem with the consultant to define the plan, the benefits, the formulary. So let's tell the audience, what is a formulary?
Yeah, so a formulary is essentially a list of medications that are going to be covered by the plan. So if they're a self-funded employer, they're saying these medications we will pay for if you are a member on our plan. That formulary, you're correct, is created by their pharmacy benefit manager partner that they work with.
Okay. And so most employees have no control over what's on the formula.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, no, this is just they sign up for it and then they get what they get.
Right. And that's always been the challenge, right? I mean, I having been in the benefits business for 22 plus years, you always get the complaints from the members that ultimately funnel up to you in some way, shape, or form. And many times it's the CFO's wife or the CEO's spouse, who has the problem, and that bubbles up to you. But for example, you get the case where the physician prescribes a drug that, and they're not really, most physicians really aren't checking your formulary when they're prescribing, correct? Or has that gotten better over the years?
Yes and yes. I would say it's gotten a little bit better. They do have the ability through their EMR to check what's on formulary. Do they do that, or do they do that well? Is it accurate? Those could all be improved for sure. I just had it happen to me the other day, Vinny, where I went for my daughter to an eye doctor. She got prescribed Tobradex. I called the pharmacy. I said, hey, I'm going to be there in 20 minutes. Can you have this ready so I can get in and out? And he said, yeah, but it's $360. It looks like you haven't hit your deductible. And I was like, oh no. Was that on formulary? What's happening? So of course, I use the tools that we have through pharmacy navigation, and I looked up that medication. There's another steroid and antibiotic, essentially the same drug, for $8 under my formulary and my plan. So I'd rather have that one. Call the doctor's office. They're like, yeah, sure, we can change it to this other one, but why would you want to do that? I told them, well, it's $8. The one you prescribed me is $360. And they're like, oh, yeah, of course, no problem. So they have no idea, even if they know if it's on formulary or off formulary, which both of those were on formulary for me. They didn't know how much it was going to cost, and at the end of the day, that's what I care about as a consumer.
No, and you cut right to the chase on this in this conversation, because I feel like, while I think the audience for the Clearly Beneficial podcast are, senior executives, CFOs, HR, even benefits brokers, but I believe consumers will start to find the benefit in hearing what we have to say, because I think it comes down to the consumer experience. You and me, and I think I told you, tell you the story, just told you the story about using cost plus drugs and lowering my costs. But the point is like, we just are sheep. Doctor prescribes this. We go here, hand the script to the local pharmacy, And it's a true statement that you can present that script at different pharmacies and get a different price, right?
That's right. Yeah, different pharmacies or different forms of the drug. The ointment was 360, the cream is 200. It's just the same drug.
No, absolutely. So consumers just need to be educated. And I'm doing a whole episode on. I did a whole episode on open enrollment. Because now we're coming up on open enrollment season, and I think the truth is that a MetLife study says that employees spend no more than 9 minutes a year reviewing their employee benefit options and their health options. When being a better consumer, it's super important, especially when it comes to medications, right?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't made it easy for them. I can go to my grocery store and see almost 100 different types of milk. It's like there's the coconut and the almond now, and all these different milks at different prices from $3 to $12 milk. And I can easily shop in comparison right in front of my on almost anything else besides your prescription drugs. It is a product, so we should make it easy. And that I think that's where you're getting at, Vinny. It's just like
No,
it's hard for
absolutely.
people to
And
do.
I think, we're not going to really comparison shop where we're going to go get a cardiac bypass operation, right? We're going to go to where our doctors are. But drugs are that thing, which what percentage of the population is on a drug?
It's about 40%
So
for employer
therefore,
sponsored plans. It'd be higher if it was like Medicare or something.
right, even Medicare, I mean, again, there's a million drug plans to choose from in the Medicare universe, right? Part D. So you have an option to pick a different plan. So again, no one's really an educated consumer around drugs, especially when it comes to brand names. Now, truth be told, I think the number is probably somewhere 92% of prescriptions are for generics. Is that a fair number?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair number. It's around I just see the 90-10 rule, but it's probably about 92.
I remember looking at some large clients and seeing that 92% generic, and then all of a sudden you dip down about another 6-7% are brand name, and then the rest is non-formulary or specialty drugs. But consumers, I mean, just to put a finer point on this, you would say consumers just need to use resources available to them, whether it's provided by their employer or not, to be better navigators of pharmacy, right?
Yeah, that's right. And hopefully find a tool that makes it easy. I think it's hard to call around to every pharmacy in your town and ask about what the drug options are. And the pharmacy employees are so busy right now. It's getting harder and harder for them to spend the time to help out even their own patients. So I think that's a starting point, is just gathering resources and doing some prescription shopping. I probably spent 30 minutes the other day shopping for a new toaster that ended up costing me like $15. Why would I not spend, 15 minutes shopping for a prescription drug that could save me 300? It
No,
just makes all this sense in the world.
absolutely. And I think, one thing that at least, I'm aware of is, drug companies certainly want to protect their brand name, protections under patent rules. So a lot of times they'll blend two drugs together and call it something else, or they're very crafty about how they want to keep their brand name and patent protection. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have whole departments for that. I was just talking to a dermatologist the other day who I was asking, why does this patient now need to be on a drug called Tremfya? It's $17,000 a month. And she was like, "Oh no, it's completely free. I get free samples from the drug rep. He's such a great guy. My patients get it at the, specialty pharmacy for free. Everything's free. Like, why?" Ferrin, what's the problem? I'm like, well, their employer is paying $17,000 a month, but these manufacturers have gotten so good at the game that they make that consumerism that happens with every other thing that we buy kind of obsolete. And then that just leaves the self-funded employers on the hook for these large costs. So they've gotten extremely good at this game.
Well, and to that point, I mean, what drives me crazy, obviously, depending on what the TV you're watching, every other ad is a drug, and aside from like looking at the side effects, going, are the side effects worse than the actual thing I have being treated? That's another conversation. But at the end of almost each ad, you see eligible commercial patients pay $0 copay, or possibly, and there's a little asterisk, of course, but I'm like, how is that possible when I know this drug is, to your point, $17,000 a year or whatever the number is? Employers bear the brunt, and the physicians and their patients have no clue that is a thing.
No clue. Yeah. You would think a dermatologist, highly educated, very smart, just told me it's all free. What's the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's so, I mean, so that leads a little bit to, back to the consumer experience. People can do the thing on their own and do the research, like they're buying the toaster, right, or the milk, or there are tools available in the marketplace that employers can contract with, and be able to help navigate, the pharmacy benefit managers doing their job, but now there are additional tools out there in the marketplace that allow engagement with the member, so that if they're prescribed something, they know that they could go in with more eyes wide open to pick that drug or find alternates, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So, myself, I'll just get on, type in savings on this drug into Google, and there's shopping tools that I could use that on Google to look how much drugs are. Like it's not hard in today's, internet age to kind of shop around online. The problem that employers are seeing is that it's not taking into account my formulary and my plan design. So what's the cost to me where I'm at in my deductible? And that's where, employers may hear noise or get complaints. Why is this price not part of my insurance? You mentioned the cost plus drug price, and in your scenario where you could pay $10 for the same drug there that through your insurance costs $40 for the same amount. So that's where now navigation is, especially in the world of AI, is just getting much more sophisticated very quickly. And employers and CFOs, they need to be aware that not only does this exist out there to help members and help solve for that and lessen the noise, but with the fiduciary conversations and honestly just being a smart consumer with your own plan, it's kind of time to have some sort of comparison shopping tool within your plan, however that looks.
Yeah. And so take me on a journey. I mean, again, your employer is one of those solutions in the marketplace. Take me on a journey for a member. Now that member now gets prescribed something, an expensive brand name drug. Take me on that journey with that member.
Yeah, so it's similar to the situation I had. They'll get a prescription from their doctor or for their child's prescription. They go to the pharmacy and they had that casino-like experience where they're like, "Oh, I hope I can afford the medication this time." And they get up to the counter of the pharmacy, and then they find out that their medication is really expensive. People will still, maybe pay for that prescription medication, even though they can't really afford it, or a third of medications are actually left unpicked up at the pharmacy counter. And the largest reason is due to cost.
That's a
So they're
huge
either
number. You said a third?
a third, about 30%. Yeah.
Wow.
So they are either not picking up that medication, or, they're picking it up, but they're very mad at their employer and the crappy insurance their employer has, and so on and so on. So that's the situation that people are in today. And so what happens if you do have a navigation tool, they will see that they work with the PBM to gather your claims because you're self-funded. So you should have access to all of your pharmacy claims. They will see that that claim is expensive. You know, we like to say anything over $11 is what people will really start to pay attention to. And so we will communicate that any navigation tool, you know, that you have should be communicating that to the member. And now the member sees all of their available options. So maybe they were prescribed doxycycline capsules, which are typically, you know, maybe they had to pay $100 out of pocket, haven't hit their deductible, but the tablets are $2, you know? So it's like, oh, now I see that I should have just got the tablets. So there's those type of
No, that's an amazing point. I mean, it's the form of the medication, it's the dosing of the medication. I mean, one drug that sticks out in my mind is and again, just I'm dating myself a little bit, but Copaxone for multiple sclerosis. I mean, that's a drug that was injectable once a day, but now you've got multiple sclerosis drugs that, I mean, you tell me, I mean, the injection frequency is down to once a month, once every 6 months. I mean, how have the drugs themselves improved? But at the same time, is Copaxone still a viable choice, but it's much less expensive? Is this a bad example I'm giving you?
No, yeah, multiple sclerosis. I mean, the drug teriflunomide is the one that has hit headlines, that there's a famous employer right now who has a lawsuit, an ERISA lawsuit, because they were paying $10,000 for this multiple sclerosis medication. And you can find it on Mark Cuban's site for under $50. So yeah, you absolutely hit it on the head that whether it's multiple sclerosis or any of these disease states that maybe at one time the medication was brand name and specialty and it's expensive, but it's not anymore. You know, it's a cheap medication that you can find on, you know, don't sleep on Amazon Pharmacy. They have low cash prices as well. This is not a commercial for any particular pharmacy, but
Right.
I'm just saying that they're out there, that the pharmacy benefit manager may have kept that $10,000 a month price within your benefit, and then now, you know, you're face lawsuits. But even worse, you know, the patients can't afford their medication, they're jumping through hoops. It's really just it's really hard on patients that are diagnosed with multiple sclerosis or any of these disease states that are having these problems with the drug pricing.
No, absolutely. But that said, and maybe these are topics for even another episode we can have you on. But really, I mean, I see that. I mean, topics pertaining to, you know, certainly drug and drug innovation. I mean, while these drugs are expensive, they're certainly solving patient problems and cure, or at least helping make certain illnesses more manageable. So there's those things which are life-saving and life improving, and while expensive, they're there. One of the other things, and which I think is a whole other conversation we should talk about another time, is gene therapy and where that's heading. But the one drug I want to talk about, which is one that you and I got into about a year ago, are GLP-1s. And I'll never forget the story you told me, and all names will be redacted to protect the innocent, but how one employer would have seen their overall health plan costs go up by, I don't even know what the number was, 50 or 60%, as a function of if everybody at that employer who was eligible for a GLP-1 went on a GLP-1 for weight loss, there would have been tremendous financial ramifications, right? So where does that stand today? Have GLP-1s become more cost effective? What has been the uptake of employers in covering GLP-1s? What's the overall trends in that particular area?
Yeah, so glucagon-like peptide medications are everywhere. It wouldn't be a pharmacy podcast without saying it, so I'm glad you brought it up. You know, whether it's Kim Kardashian, commercials, as you mentioned. Everybody out there is talking about this, whether you're in pharmacy or not. It was developed initially for diabetes, but now there's medications out there like Mounjaro and Saxenda and Wegovy that really drive significant weight loss. So that's these GLP-1s. Ozempic is the headliner. That one's actually approved for diabetes, but those medications, you're correct. They have caused a lot of heartache for employers. And how do we pay for them, knowing that members are demanding that they be covered under their pharmacy benefit? And that employer, they decided to cover them, just like 60% of their fellow colleagues. So 60% of self-funded employers we're seeing are covering GLP-1s for weight loss. So almost all of them cover GLP-1s for diabetes, but now, there's a lot of pressure to cover them for weight loss. So how do you do that? If you are a CFO and an employer and you don't know how much you're going to spend on these medications next year, you really need to understand that, because the curve can just skyrocket right now. So there's some strategies out there that I do feel like are working. We've seen some real success in getting members on these in a productive way that helps their overall health. And therefore, you see the GLP-1 cost increase, but that employee for you is at work, they're sick less often, they're losing weight, they're feeling good, and your medical costs on them have gone down. So I would say that, it's definitely a lot to consider. It's almost a whole episode by itself, but for sure, everybody out there needs to make sure that they understand what their GLP-1 trend is going to look like next year. Not only the cost per unit that everybody's kind of focused on, but what's that overall cost? How many members on your plan are going to be utilizers?
No, I mean, it's a big deal because, in essence, I mean, and you just brought up a really good point. While maybe I look at it or others look at it that, okay, we're treating weight loss, but the downstream effect is, to your point, that employee is happier, healthier, more engaged. They're not going to be have side effects from diabetes down the road or heart disease or whatever it might be. So is it pay now or versus paying a lot more later? I mean, is that part of the strategy?
It can be part of it, but I mean, what you're talking about, the example is the employer that we have spends $1 billion a year on pharmacy, and you could easily get to $500 million next year if all of these people were taking GLP-1s. So to say, oh, Mr. CFO, we're going to spend this additional $500 million, but we'll tell you that in a few years, we're going to see our medical costs go down. That is a conversation that no pharmacy consultant is going to
right. Especially in certain industries, these are not lifetime employees, right? They're there for a limited period of time. So you're not really making a long-term investment, whatever it is what it is. I mean, this is a fact. And to your point, yes, I think, there will be another Ferrin Williams episode, because I think I really want to unpack some of the future of this industry with regard to specialty meds, like I said, gene therapies. I thought back in the day when I saw these PrEP medications, these pre-exposure prophylaxis medications start to come to the market. I thought, wow, these are like $1,200 a month. Employers know they're spending $14,000 a year on these call it a lifestyle drug. Others would argue that they aren't, but at the same time, then GLP-1s came along and blew those out of the water. I mean, I think GLP-1s are something that have started to cost a lot of money, and I think they cause a lot of emotional conversations in employers. It's one thing for the CFO to say yes or no, but HR is over here going, "We need this, right?"
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, You want to pay attention to your GLP-1s. It can be a huge spend for you, but that PrEP drug is probably your number 2, number 3 drug on your list right now. I mean, that's what we are seeing with some employers. And they just came out with a new injectable that's great. It lasts longer, $27,000 per injection. So I just like GLP-1s you want to pay attention to, but the pharmacy costs and other categories are creeping up as everybody's focused on GLP-1. So you really need a partner that is making sure that you're in a good spot if you're the employer paying for these.
Listen, I want to thank you for being with me today. It's so good to see you and reconnect, and such a bright spot of knowledge, and I really appreciate your level of detail and everything you know. And I'd love to have you back to continue this conversation on some of these other topics. Would you be interested in that?
That would be great, Vinny. It's always so fun having conversations with you. I'm so glad that we've been able to stay in touch for so many years. So it's a great podcast, and I'm happy for you. I see you doing big things. So yeah, just let me know.
No, I appreciate it. So as we talked earlier, I'm not going to ask you about wine, but I will ask you about vacation spots. So I know you live in Vegas, but where is your favorite vacation spot?
Yeah, so in Vegas, we don't necessarily need sunny vacation spots, but we do all travel in the summer. That's the best time to get out of Vegas. So my favorite vacation spot is actually Seattle, Washington. I just love the summers there and the weather in the summer. So that would be our family's favorite spot.
No, I remember living in Seattle for some years, and there was 2 seasons back in the mid '80s. It was like rainy and then amazingly beautiful during the summer. I mean, July, August, and into September. I tell you what, it couldn't be a more beautiful place to be.
I agree. Well, it's been so great on your podcast, Vinny. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ferrin. I appreciate you, and we'll talk again.
Okay.
This podcast reflects the personal views of the host and guests, not their employers or sponsors. See you next time.